How do we deliver best-in-class products today while keeping an eye on the horizon of Earth industries? By using everything at our disposal. Because at Viaflex, creating innovative solutions to complex customer challenges is why we exist. Viaflex, protecting Earth, promoting industry.
Home. It's more than an address. It's where you step out and snuggle in, where you share and dream and do. So you shouldn't have to go far from home when you need care. Whether it's for something common or complicated, we believe you deserve world-class health care, no matter where in the world you live, because every patient, everywhere, means the world to us. Here for all, here for good. Sanford Health.
Since 1956, Aerostar has been challenging the limits of technology.
Aerostar is an aerospace and defense contractor that works on high-altitude stratospheric balloons, radar systems, and protective wear. And our mission is to connect, protect, and save lives.
Today, Aerostar is a diversified technology company that continues to be a world leader in the design, development, and manufacturing of aerospace products. For decades, Aerostar has been at the forefront of high-altitude research and has a distinguished history of collaborating with university, scientific, and military partners.
Back in 1956, there was a lot of new technology being developed. There was a lot of testing for pre-NASA space race scientific research. Some of the first work that they were doing with the high-altitude balloons was before they had put people up in rockets.
For years, Aerostar has collaborated with NASA to use high-altitude research balloons in Antarctica. Felix Baumgartner was carried by an Aerostar balloon to the stratosphere, from which he completed his record-shattering space dive. Aerostar has spent decades refining high-altitude balloon technology, designing, engineering, and manufacturing the end product. It is a technology that can get balloons to the stratosphere reliably, inexpensively, and from anywhere in the world.
A satellite is reasonably expensive to put into space, and it doesn't just happen quickly. The balloon is orders of magnitude cheaper than that. What a balloon can do is it can navigate to a certain point that you can specify, and it can linger there for weeks or months on command. I can put it where I want it or in the vicinity of where I want it for a long period of time, reasonably inexpensively and with short notice.
The possibilities only grow as Aerostar develops smaller hardware and smarter technology.
We say not even the sky is the limit. If you take what we know about flying in the stratosphere that we didn't used to know, add into that better battery technology, better solar technology, better computing and navigation smarts, I think there's a lot that can be done that hasn't been done before.
Finding a place to belong is everything. It's where you can make a difference, where you're heard, where you have a team that supports you, and the benefits you deserve. At Avera, you can find that place. You belong at Avera. Apply today. Avera.org/careers.
Oh, hi there. We are Daktronics. We create some of the most sophisticated and iconic scoring and audiovisual systems on the planet that ensure your projects deliver impact. We're a passionate group of designers, fabricators, project managers, sales, service, digital artists, tech gurus, and engineers. We design, code, test, fabricate, bend, punch, insert, paint, pack, ship, install, and service dynamic audiovisual systems. Oh, and we also create the incredible content that goes on them. We do everything. But most importantly, we listen to our customers and together find successful solutions for their brand and messages to deliver impact. From the small projects to the large, that's what we do. We innovate, we design, and we light it up. We are Daktronics.
At Premier, it's about doing what's right for our customers, employees, and communities, giving our time and resources to support what matters most: academics and athletics, arts and entertainment, families and economic development. When you have the right people financial solutions and a spirit of service, you build one of the nation's strongest financial organizations. First Premier Bank and Premier Bank Card. Investing in you. Member FDIC.
And we'll have to, there's 3 microphones for...
All right, Lindsay, it's great talking to you. Yeah, I'll see you Saturday. Okay, bye. All right, Maya, what should we do next? I know.
Yep. So there's that slide that you provided. So I'll have you give a little overview. I'll say your name, what you do, and then I'm going to let Nicole introduce herself and tell a little bit about her company. Yes, I got that. I'm not sure I know how to run it. Okay, great. We're supposed to get started. Good morning, everybody. I think we're going to get started. I know we got a little late start. I don't know about all of you, but I kind of want to go do some triple jumps after listening to Nancy Kerrigan, which I have no business doing. So I don't know if I have business moderating this panel either with these fine folks up here, but I am privileged to do so. Welcome to the new leaders, new rules, new culture in the employee retention bucket of today's sessions. I am Carly Solom. I'm moderating today's session. I am the Community Relations Director at Marsh McLennan Agency, and I have some really cool people up here with me. We're going to get into a little bit deeper discussion of who they are in a bit, but I have from my left, Dean Tim O'Keefe. He's the Dean of the Beacom School of Business down at USD. I have Nicole Friesman, the VP of HR at Raven, or CNH. And I have Dr. Ron Place. He is the Regional President and CEO of Avera McKinnon. A few housekeeping items for us today. The session is being recorded and will be available for the registered attendees. And you will receive SHRM credits for this session, and we will have a moderated Q&A here with these panelists as we move forward. A little session description here today. In a rapidly evolving business landscape, the rules of the Workforce Playbook are being rewritten before our eyes. Join us on a transformative journey where we're going to explore how leadership and organizational change are shaping the future of work. We're going to talk about how to elevate purpose and supercharge performance, embracing creative strategies and innovative tactics, and how to navigate change like a pro. A bit of our session goals here today. We are going to make sure that you attendees are engaged about the costs and activities aimed at retaining employees while solidifying and improving the relationship between employees and the organization. Some data and statistics, and we're going to have these experts share some best practices related to retention and HR programs, practices, and policies. So some few statistics to kick off our slides. Apologies, I can't see what I'm quite working with here. So about some resignation, in April of 2021, 4 million people resigned, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, marking the start of the Great Resignation trend. In November of 2021, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that 4.5 million workers quit their job, making a series high. The service sectors, particularly in retail, hospitality, and food services, experienced some of the highest turnover, while healthcare and tech industries also experienced significant turnover. Some reasons cited for leaving their jobs included burnout, a desire for a better work-life balance, higher pay, and better benefits, remote work opportunities, and the reassessment of work and life priorities during the pandemic led to many seeking different career paths or employment situations. As far as a global impact, other countries also experienced increased turnover rate, but the data and the extent varied by country. Countries with strong social safety nets and labor protections saw less of an impact compared to those without. So without further ado, I got a little excited there. Without further ado, I am going to introduce our speakers a little bit deeper as we have a great panel up here today. First, we have Nicole Friesman. As I mentioned again, she is the VP of HR at Raven Industries, and I'm going to let her say a little bit more about herself and her company.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to have to get used to this echo. I don't know if you guys hear it or if it's just me. It's never great to hear your own voice being played back, or at least that's how I feel. So, Nicole Friesman, I joined Raven Industries in 2008 and have spent most of my career there. It wasn't where I started my career. I've worked in family-owned and privately owned organizations, and Raven being a public organization afforded me a lot of opportunity over the 15 years that I've been there. Raven has gone through a fair amount of change here in the last couple of years. For those of you in the community that may not have heard, Raven was acquired by a company called C&H, which stands for Case New Holland. I don't know how many of you are from an ag background or a rural community, but we're the red and blue tractors, not the green ones. So as Raven has gone through a significant amount of change, we had 3 businesses and they were all very unique, but we've really become more focused on ag and construction, and specifically Raven does precision agriculture. And then of course, Case New Holland is in the business of equipment. And so we really kind of paired nicely with them. As you look at Raven and C&H as a combined footprint, you can see Raven was about 1,000 employees, 1,300 employees joining the organization now. You know, we've got 40,000 employees, 23 billion in revenue, a much bigger global footprint. And so it's just afforded a lot of opportunities, I'll say, to our employees in the local community to kind of expand their touch points, you know, on a bigger scale. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Carly.
Great. Next, we have Dr. Ron Place, the Regional President and CEO of Avera McKinnon, and he is going to speak a little bit about his background. And I know you all know Avera, but a little bit about his company as well.
Yeah, my background's pretty weird, I think. So this whole changing leaders, changing business. I was commissioned in the Army when I graduated from college about 37 years ago, and I went to medical school and spent my entire adult life in the Army. In fact, I retired from military service about 8 months ago. So a long time in the Army, ultimately transitioning from day-to-day leadership. I trained as a general surgeon. I practiced as a general surgeon for a considerable amount of time. I deployed several times to Kosovo, to Iraq, to Afghanistan a couple of times, that sort of thing. And then transitioned in executive leadership, ultimately as the director of the Defense Health Agency, which meant that I managed all of military healthcare around the world, to include the TRICARE health plan and a bunch of other things like that. And then I was told, hey, you're too old. You have to retire. And that's, I mean, the military's a young person's game, and I understand that. And so then it was, how do you reinvent yourself? How do you use the things that have been your experiences? How do you find an organization that thinks like you, that acts like you, even if the one that you've devoted your life to now says that you can't be a member of that team anymore? And so as I searched for that, interestingly enough, it was coming back home. I'm originally from eastern South Dakota. It was coming back home to Avera because of its purpose-driven leadership, its mission-driven organization. It's the idea that what you do to help people, to make a positive impact on individuals, to make a positive impact on communities, and do it in a way that's wrapped around healthcare, but it's more than healthcare. What does it mean to really help people when they need help? And so that's really what Avera is about, which is why I'm now privileged to be the CEO here at Avera McKinnon.
Welcome. Happy to have you up here today. Next, we have Tim O'Keefe, the Dean of the USD School of Business, Beacom School of Business. Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So before I do that, though, I want to say to Dr. Place, thank you for a lifetime of service in the military and leadership in that environment. I think that deserves a round of applause. So you clearly saved the oldest for last. I joined University of South Dakota Beacom School of Business on June 22nd, so I'm just over 4 months into my tenure. I have worked my entire life, for the most part, in higher education. I taught my first university credit-bearing course at the ripe old age of 23, and have pretty much been in that business now for over 4 decades. I've been an administrator in higher education for over 20 years. 5 years before I joined the University of South Dakota, I was the Dean of the College of Business and Economics at Longwood University in Farmville, Virginia. I retired from there a year ago. I flunked retirement in a grand fashion. And about 6 weeks into retirement, I started looking for a job that was closer to home for me, which actually was northeastern North Dakota, where I grew up. So I'm back in the Dakotas, I'm back in the Midwest with my people, and I have to tell you that I smile every day I go to work. USD is a wonderful place, South Dakota is a wonderful place, and there's just so much that we can do together to make people's lives better. So thank you for having me, and I will not bore anyone anymore with my words.
No boring here. As you can tell, we have a very dynamic and diverse group of individuals up here today, which will warrant great discussion on the topics ahead. So to dive a little bit into the Q&A, shouldn't have thank you yet. Missed the slide there. We're going to hear about USD for a while. We're going to dive into the moderated Q&A portion, and it'll be a variety of questions and have a variety of answers, and then tying into the business school side of how we're helping support those strategies as well. So my first question to this panel that I'll ask to all of you, and Tim, I'll ask you to start, is how do you define purpose-driven leadership, and what role does it play in creating a high-performance culture within an organization?
Sure. So I think it kind of goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, that in order to be purpose-driven as a leader, there has to be a purpose, and you have to identify what your strategies are, what your goals are, and you have to communicate those very clearly to the people in your organization. Your leadership team has to know what the goals are. Everyone in your organization has to know what those goals are. For example, I would say at the Beacom School of Business, one of our goals is to increase enrollment. If everyone knows that's a goal, then every decision we make at least can be informed by the fact that we're looking for that to be an outcome. If we're trying to increase retention among the faculty, which is also a goal, and retention among students, which is another goal, decisions can be informed by knowing what the outcome is supposed to be on a more macro level. So purpose-driven leadership really is about communication, about clearly identifying the purposes you're trying to achieve, the goals you're trying to achieve, and then leading from that perspective every moment of every day.
Great stuff. Nicole, I'm going to pass it down to you next to tag on to what Tim said and add your own flavor to it as well.
Sure.
I can repeat the question if you...
No, that's okay. So agree with everything that was said, that you do have to have shared goals and aspirations that need to be fostered within the workplace. You also have to create personal meaning for those that are a part of your workplace. But just to maybe add on, I don't know that you can get to purpose-driven leadership in your organization without addressing your culture first. I think purpose-driven leadership is an outcome of your culture. And so one of the things that I've been afforded at Raven is we started our cultural journey almost a decade ago, and I would say it has become a differentiator for us within the organization. But I do think there's a few, key steps within creating your culture that I would maybe share just for practical knowledge. If you haven't yet, I would say define your culture. I think putting words to what you want your culture to be is so important because those words can act as a compass. Make sure that those words are aspirational. It's not you're not defining what it is today, you're defining what you want it to be, but it's also got to be something that is achievable. And it might not feel achievable in the beginning because it is aspirational, but that's the whole point. Like you're gonna get there. With that though, I think you also have to set expectations for behaviors because you can't just have words on paper or words that you place up in a town hall meeting or throw out in an email. It's really getting to a place where how are your people behaving? Are they behaving in sync with the cultural words that you have created? And then creating accountability to that. So making some tough decisions. When it comes to how you want people to behave, you also have to be willing to hold them accountable to that. And we've all been in that place as HR professionals where we have people that aren't behaving in line with the expectations, but maybe they're your most valuable salesperson or they're the key resource in engineering. And you can't let those be excuses because those will be barriers to achieving the culture that you want to create. And you got to be willing to make those tough decisions. It takes courage to have a great culture. I think with then culture, you really have to look at integrating it. It's integrating it into your employee life cycle. And if you do it and you do it well, you can integrate it into hiring, you can integrate it into your performance management system, you can integrate it into exiting, you can integrate it into rewards and performance. But it can show up in all of those in such a way that it kind of creates this alignment and this tie. And this overall kind of, I'll say, wave, this momentum, this expectation, this accountability, if you will, I think is ultimately what drives your performance and outcomes. And your performance and outcomes lead to these high-performing teams that do have shared goals, that do have alignment, that don't question what each other is thinking, but instead engaging in challenging dialogue that will ultimately put, whoever it is, whether it's the student, whether it's the customer, whether it's the farmer in our case, first. And it becomes more about the success of them than it does about the personal success of that person or that team.
Wonderful. And Dr. Place, same to you. How do you define purpose-driven leadership and what role does it play?
Yeah, I'll answer the question, but I'm also feeling a little bit weird. There's a whole bunch of the team over here that can't see, so I don't know who's responsible for this thing that we're not using, but if I could get a couple of people to help me move that just out of the way, I really think it would be helpful if we could do that.
We love taking charge in here.
Flexibility.
Thank you. I have a whole new appreciation over here than I did before.
Yeah.
Nice to see all of you.
So I apologize that we did that and we didn't recognize it before. I think that.
Happy with that though, because my boss can't see me.
Yeah. But you're doing so well. I think that she needs to see you. I agree with what you said, but I think you need to back up even a little bit more. And so in healthcare, so we talk a lot about what we do, and that's great. But you can do that lots of different places. You can say, well, but how do you do it? So that's sort of how you organize yourself, and that's great. I mean, now you're limiting a little bit, but I think you have to start with why you do it. And now, for those of you, I'm paraphrasing from Simon Sinek's book, Start with Why. But you have to know what you're for. You have to know what your purpose is. And you can't be successful at what you're really trying to do. I mean, when you listen to Nancy Kerrigan talk, man, she knew exactly what she was for. And she espoused it, and she lived it, and everything, and everybody around her was all in on what she was for. And that's one of the reasons. I mean, all the things she talked about from preparation and perseverance and listening to her coaches and all the other stuff that she talked about that were important to her. But you have to start with why, I think. And then that leads to the how, and then you get to the what. But in order to make that happen, then you have to start with why. And the why is, what's your mission? What's your personal mission? What's your organizational mission? What is it that makes you special? What is it that's your purpose? What is it? And then what's your idea of the ideal state, the goal state, the difference that you want to make? And then there's a gap between that. And what is it? What are the sort of resources? What are my personal values? What are all those things that then go into that sauce about how does it all work? And that works in your personal life, that works in your business life. It helps you decide. I mean, you mentioned the Great Resignation and that sort of thing. But the thing is, it's not like unemployment went up. So people left their jobs, that's right. Why did they leave? Because they weren't fulfilled in what they were doing. Well, they're looking for fulfillment. I mean, aren't we all? Except those of us who are, personally extraordinarily wealthy. Don't the rest of us have to work? And in doing it, don't we want to do something that doesn't suck the life out of us, but instead brings fulfillment to what we do, that's purposeful in how we think, and it lives within our values. So I think that's what we have to do first, is start with why. So for example, Avera, what are we? And we started with a bunch of really dedicated nuns who came from Europe because they thought the Dakota territories needed education, and they were right. And then, come back to sort of today's time, the diphtheria and influenza epidemic, no kidding, in the late 1800s led them to believe that, well, we care about people, and we can provide nursing care. We can do something special for people in North and South Dakota. And that transition was, man, we can actually make a bigger difference there. Their purpose was to do something, and they thought it was education for kids in the prairie. And what they then figured out was, no, really our purpose in life is to make a positive impact on the lives of people, not just in education, but in every aspect of their life. And how can we continue to grow that? If you start with why, personally, you find the organization that you belong in. And if you find an organization that knows who they are, then you can fit into it and you can grow. And however it is that you want to grow, whether it's to be a world-famous figure skater or a nurse or a technician or an educator or agribusiness, whatever it is, but know what your why is.
Talk about three very purpose-driven leaders up here on this stage with very passionate answers to that question. Thank you all for your input. Just a little stat here. Companies that invest in leadership development and continuous learning tend to have a better talent retention rates. A study by LinkedIn found that 94% of employees would stay longer at a company if it invested in their career development. So a little bit to what you were just saying, Dr. Place, can you share specific examples of maybe within Avera or a company that you know that has successfully integrated that purpose-driven leadership into its culture and some of the tangible benefits they've seen from that?
Well, sure. I mean, I'll use two examples, Avera and the United States Army. I am where I am today because the Army continued to invest in my leadership development. I mean, they asked everybody, do you want to be a leader? And if you didn't, that's okay. If you do, then what can we do to help you? Thank you to all of you, taxpayers. My education, my long-term education, since my salary was paid by you as a member of the Department of Defense, that leadership development, that requirement to be able to do purposeful leadership in all elements of the world to include major combat operations, I'm the benefit of that. Now, I will say this, I found, in my life, that was a privilege. And I'm taking care of America's sons and daughters. I'm taking care of the young men and women who said, I want to protect this country, whatever it takes. Purpose-driven. That's the kind of people that I was privileged to take care of. So when you clap for me in my service, like, you got to be kidding me. It's a privilege. I get this way when I'm tired. And I was, anyway, I got home. I was out of town. I got home 1 o'clock in the morning, so I'm kind of tired. So you're going to get the emotional version of me today. But the same is true, I think, in Avera. I could tell you story after story after story. It doesn't matter, X-ray tech or food service specialist or registered nurse or whatever, of the noticing a thing that's just not right and taking that extra step to make it closer to right or even right again. I mean, to me, that's what it is. And if you can find people who think like that, who want to be in your organization, who want to be in the military because they want to make a difference for people who are protecting the American way of life, or who want to be in a Catholic health organization that believes that every human being has basic dignity, and whether it's healthcare that we're providing or some other form of assistance that we're providing, that we're there to do something for people who otherwise it wouldn't happen for them. That we're providing a way, so now in leadership, that we're providing a way through the Avera Academy for high school students who often have difficult means, financial means, but can they understand the experience that comes with healthcare? And if they invest a little bit more of their time, which is the most valuable thing to a high school student, if they can invest a little bit of their personal time, we're going to invest in them. And what does that mean for their potential healthcare journey? Or does it mean that in our nurses who want to be nurse executives, can we invest in them so that when they're managing a particular unit or a series of units, are they better at it because we've invested in how leadership works? All those things matter. And oh, by the way, it also makes us better in our personal life. It makes us better husbands. It makes us better wives. It makes us better parents. It makes us better members of our churches. It makes us better members of our communities. It all fits together if you just invest in people.
Great answer, and I think everyone got a little teary-eyed when you talked too, so you're not alone in that. It all comes back down to why, right? Sharing another statistic, moving into a little bit of a different topic here, leadership and organizational change programs often aim to create a positive company culture. Organizations with strong cultures experience lower turnover rates. For example, the turnover rate at a company with a strong culture is just 13.9%, compared to a 48.4% turnover at companies with weak cultures. So a question I ask, and Nicole, I'll start with you. Change management is a critical aspect of navigating transformation. What are some best practices for leaders to navigate change successfully while ensuring employee well-being?
So this might feel a little common sense, but honestly, a lot of these answers reside within all of us. I think change management has a lot to do with strong communication. That includes transparency and context. I think sometimes as HR or leaders in our organization, we make the decision, but we sometimes forget that we have had time with that decision, whether it's weeks or months that we've been stewing on it, talking about it, working through it, right? And then we get to that decision and we're ready to tell everyone and say, come along. But we kind of forget, like we went through a change management curve, and you have to allow your team to go through the change management curve. But part of that change management curve means providing them all the context that you had to talk through over the past few weeks, past few months. And remembering that change is about heart and mind. So the mind is a logical piece, right? That's where we can like talk ourselves through it. And I just went through a big change between Raven and CNH. Where we further integrated. And I would say there was this emotional piece, an emotional piece that I didn't expect just because I'm not that emotional of a person. But you have to remember that there is heart to change. And you have to speak to both the mind and the heart. And you have to create that psychological safety for people to be vulnerable, to kind of let it out, act as a release, because a lot of times those things are what allow them to go from here in the change curve to I'll say back up that ramp. The other thing I just say is like practically remember, because you're in a change in change management, is creating forums like town halls where you can have Q&As. Even if you don't have the answer as a leader, that's okay. Allowing people the forum to ask the questions, even if you say you're going to get back to them, creates this, I'll say, integrity, but it creates what I'll say is this: we're in it together, right? As leaders, we don't have to have all the answers. And then I would just remember to maybe point out, when you're doing change management, making sure that you have dedicated resources and a clear project plan. A lot of times, people will make the decision, here's the change we need to create, but we kind of forget, like, there's a tremendous amount of action and that needs to take place, and who's managing that action? What's the team that's coming together to drive it? Because change often fails when you don't have a good plan.
Absolutely. Tim, anything to add on a change management scale? What are some best practices?
Sure. And Nicole did a wonderful job of answering that. I would add to that to a great extent, change management is fear management. People don't like to change, and we recognize that change is a constant, that the moment we finish changing something, something else has to change, and it's uncomfortable. So everything she just mentioned is really about a process of alleviating people's fear of change, because it's a rare person who embraces change. Oh boy, I can't wait to do my job differently tomorrow. You just got used to doing the job the way you're supposed to do it today. And you're getting better at it, and all of a sudden, we're going to put you in a position where you have to do it differently now. You can do something entirely differently, and now I'm back to being a neophyte instead of an expert. So it's about communication, and it is about having a plan, and it's about having people understand, first and foremost, why we're making this change. How does this affect the purpose that we're trying to achieve? People don't like it. I don't like it, but my job is to be a change agent. And so I know I'm pushing too hard when people start ducking indoors when they see me coming down the hallway, but it is really about managing people's fears and giving them expectations that we will all be better in the end.
Great. Dr. Place, anything you'd like to add?
Maybe just a couple of comments. First is, think about it. Change is easy. You go first. Right? I mean, wouldn't it be easier if just somebody else did it and then you could just do it? But somebody has to be able to do it. But I mean, I guess I try to think about what's required. And the first is, so I'm going to use my background, healthcare. Does anybody want healthcare like it was in 1973? Anybody?
Some parts of it maybe.
No, I mean, I pick and choose. I'm not saying that. I mean, the whole kit and caboodle, do you want it the way it was in 1973? I don't think anybody does. Well, all kinds of change had to happen to get it to where it is now, the good and the bad. Most of it's a lot better, which is why we say, yep, we want it the way it is today. Could it be improved? Sure. So what does it look like in 2073? Change is going to have to happen. Matt, change is going to have to happen for us to get better. And who doesn't want healthcare to be better? I think we all do. So where's our plan in that? Where's our process in that? But in order to make it effective each step of the way, I think it takes collaboration. So if the leaders want it to have happen, then how are you collaborating with the doers? Because I'm not the one who's going to be making the change. It's the people who are in the operating room now, or it's the nurses on the floor, or it's the x-ray techs taking the images or whatever. They're the ones who are going to have to implement it. So, where's their voice in all that? And then once we really have collaborated and through a discernment process of deep collaboration, then where's the transparency? This was the original plan. Here's how it was adapted because of all the great input we have. Here's the measurements of effectiveness. If it works, great. If it doesn't, that doesn't mean we failed. It means that we didn't have perhaps the best plan, and we're going to reevaluate it again. But we know we have to change, and we're going to evaluate ourselves along the way. So I completely agree with where Nicole went with this. It's how do you work with the staff? It's not telling people, it's helping people to make that change, to make that innovation.
Great comments. Communication and collaboration are common themes among the three of you talking up here. I know I certainly don't wake up and say, I'm ready to change today. And I'm certain most of you don't here either. You have a knack, Dr. Place, of kind of segueing into my next question, so I appreciate that. Another stat to share with you all, leadership and organizational change programs often focus on improving employee engagement. According to Gallup's State of the Global Workplace report, highly engaged teams show 21% greater profitability. Higher engagement levels are strongly correlated with improved retention rates. So a bit of what you just kind of said, but diving a little deeper here, what role does employee engagement truly play in the success of organizational change? And more specifically, how can leaders foster a sense of ownership and commitment among their teams? I'm going to go ahead and break back to you, Dr. Place, if you want to pick that one back up.
Yeah, sure. Well, the first thing is when you're asking for engagement, so whether it's surveys, and we do that, we utilize organizations to survey what our team thinks, but they're not going to answer it if you don't do anything about it. So it's one thing to have the employee engagement, it's quite another to show that it matters. We have about 20,000 employees in Avera, a little bit more than that. The most recent survey we did, I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 or 13,000 respondents, which when you talk about employee engagement, it's a terrific amount of people who have actually responded to it. But the reason they do it is because then we rank order them, and these are the things that you cared about the most, and this is what we're doing about it. And this is how we're going to measure how we're doing about it. And if you think that's the right thing, tell us you think we're doing the wrong thing, and maybe we can get to a better solution for it. But it's not just doing in surveys. And it's not just walking around and talking to people and patting them on the back and saying, hey, thanks for what you're doing. It's truly having substantive discussions about what the challenges are in the organization and what are you doing about it. And if you're failing again, failure is, let's be careful about the words that we use. I shouldn't use the word failure. We failed at it. It's okay to fail and try again. Failure is to say, it didn't work and I give up. Failure is bad. Failing is the human condition. Unless some of you are inherently perfect at everything you do, I happen not to be. So the only way that we're going to get better is to understand that we have to take some risks, and they should be calculated risks, but sometimes along the way we're going to fail at them. That's okay. Let's think about how it didn't work. Let's try something different, and let's continue to work at it. But engagement is not a one-time thing. It's a back and forth. It's a continuous process, and it's not just about a survey. It's how do you engage with the people that you care about who are doing the work in the organization that you're part of.
Great comments. I'm going to ask Nicole if she has anything to share, and then I'm going to go to a more deeper pointed question to Tim.
Sure. Maybe what I would just add on, we do have substantive conversations after employee engagement surveys go out, but I think, we have to remember that engagement isn't like, there isn't a magic bullet, there isn't something that you do once and great, you've got an engaged team. It's incremental, it's small, and it's asking yourself, did that incrementally take me in the right direction, or did that move me back? And I think sometimes, as HR professionals, as I know a lot of you are in this this room, I think we look for big initiatives, innovative ideas, and it doesn't have to be big. It can, just start small and keep layering in and adding to. I'd also recommend doing away with annual surveys and getting to more of a pulse survey. Remember that, seasons change and seasons of people change and how they feel. And so if you're gonna fail and you wanna fail fast, it's doing something, checking in, knowing which way you need to turn, and then keeping at it.
I would add one thing to that, though, and I think it's important to recognize that, as Dr. Place said, failure is not necessarily a bad thing. We actually have to, in our cultures, embrace failure, because if you're not failing once in a while, you're not stretching enough. You're not taking enough risk. And I happen to work in an industry where failure is considered to be not an option. And if you ever failed at something, people will remind you for the next 30 years that you failed at that, so we're not going to try the next thing you work in. I just said that in front of my boss. I might just have lost my job. But I encourage the faculty and staff in the Beacom School of Business to try big, hairy, audacious things, big goals. If we fail, we will learn from it, and we might not achieve the big goal, but we might have achieved some smaller things along the way. So I encourage you to fail. I encourage you to reach for things you don't think you can accomplish at work, and do it with your colleagues. Get engaged with them and fail boldly, fail quickly. But then move on to the next thing if you fail. It's okay, forget about it, move on.
So for all you young folks in here, you can fail, it's okay. So Tim, while you have the mic, coming back to you, specifically getting a little more tactical as we have the young folks in the room and you're preparing our future workforce for a lot of people sitting in this room here. In what ways does your business school integrate practical hands-on experiences such as internships, co-op programs, industry partnerships? And more so, how are your students learning adaptability and problem-solving skills within your curriculums?
Sure, thank you for that question. Well, we have internships available for every student in the Beacom School. Not every major requires it, but every student has the option of doing an internship. We do require internships in some of our programs, supply chain management being one of them, but I can tell you from a career in higher education that when a student participates in an internship, they come back to the classroom, they are a different human being than before they left. They add to the learning environment immeasurably as a student who has actually practiced their discipline in the private sector or the public sector, whatever that happens to be. I cannot stress enough to the young people in this room how important an internship is, not just in your employability, but in your personal growth. You will be a different student in the classroom after an internship. So I encourage you to do internships. I encourage you to do one as early as possible so that you bring that back to the learning environment and it changes how you learn. So in your junior year, look for an internship. And we have facilities in place that help you find internships, that monitor your internships in the Beacom School of Business. And we would, if we're fortunate enough that you study with us, we'll make sure that we can make that happen. Other ways that we initiate more practical learning opportunities, we have a wonderful program called Coyote Business Consulting, where we take students and put them into a consulting mode with a faculty member on a project for a small business or a larger corporation. It's an incredible opportunity for students to interact with a business on another level, not as an employee, but as an advisor, as a person who's solving a problem for them as a consultant. Businesses apply to be to have a team assigned to them. They come to us with a problem. When this was started 3 years ago, we begged businesses to participate. This fall, we turned 20 businesses away. It has gone so well. This semester, we've opened it up across campus so that we have multidisciplinary teams. We now have a team with computer scientists on it. We have teams with graphic designers on them. My best day will be when we have a team with maybe an elementary educator or something on it. I want the entire campus to participate in that. The same goes for Coyote Capital Management. It's a capital management program where students invest $3 million in funding in the stock market. That is also available to students all across campus. The more people you bring to the table to discuss investment opportunities, the richer the discussion and the better the decision. They have beaten the stock market every year. Their returns have been better than the stock market every year. And I'll tell you, when those students seek a job in the finance sector, participation in Coyote Capital Management is a major feather in their cap. We make extensive use of guest speakers. So if any of you are interested in come and speak to a class, give me your business card. We will reach out to you. That practical information that comes from people currently in the field adds immeasurably to the learning environment for our students, and it helps our faculty as well. I'm going to step into the idea of adaptability, okay, and decision making. All of our classes focus on decision making. I will humbly say that the macro function of management, the only macro function of management, is decision making. Nothing happens in a business until somebody makes a decision. And the success of the business will be in a direct proportion to the goodness of those decisions. So we teach our students to be adaptable in their perspective. That's what the importance of a liberal arts education is. And literally every class has some form of decision making built into it. And so I will stop there because there's way more that these fine people can add to it, but you kind of hit my wheelhouse with that.
That's good. That's the goal here. I realize that this is the last few minutes between lunch and these conversations. So quickly, I'm going to ask each one of you just to provide a brief potential statement or a few bullet points of some practical advice or actionable insights for leaders and organizations in this room looking to embrace purpose-driven leadership, foster innovation, or effectively navigate change in the current business environment? Just a quick few bullets. And I'm gonna start with you, Nicole. I'm putting you on the spot.
I'd prefer to go last, but if I'm going to keep it short and sweet, it's where I started the conversation, and it's foster your culture. Your culture is going to lead into the purpose-driven leadership, and ultimately figure out, as you foster the culture that you want to have, how you integrate it into your employee experience. And I truly do mean that. And it starts with hiring, right? Hire for cultural fit first, hire for team fit second, hire for position fit third. You can always teach someone how to do a job, but if they don't fit your organization, it doesn't create a great foundation to build off of. And then take it from there. After hiring, move to performance management, move to rewards, layer it on one small step at a time, knowing that you're moving in the right direction.
Great advice. Dr. Place?
Yeah, I think you have to know who you are. So here's my embarrassing story. The first time I was the chief surgeon, I was asked, what's your leadership philosophy? And I fumbled through it a little bit, and I was embarrassed by it. And ever since then, I mean, this is my card, and it has my leadership philosophy on it. It has all the mistakes I've made along the way. So this is version, I don't know, 25 or something like that. But it doesn't have to be your leadership philosophy. It has to be at least your personal philosophy. What matters to you? What doesn't matter to you? What are you hoping to achieve in your life? What are you hoping to achieve in your profession? But write it down, because otherwise you're just fooling yourself. Well, I'll give myself a pass. I didn't do that. Or yeah, culturally it didn't work out. But it's okay. But if you write it down, now that's a contract with yourself of this is who I am. This is who I'm going to be. These are my non-negotiable values. This is me. And then when it comes to joining an organization, how good is that? I mean, Nicole just talked about how good is that fit, that cultural fit? Do I match the values here or not? And through that, then you'll learn more about yourself. You'll learn about your areas of expertise. You'll learn about your areas of challenges, and it will help you see the blind spots that you might not see. So develop your philosophy.
I will add to that. My statement of leadership philosophy is 1 page long. And I've worked on it for decades. And it goes with my application materials for a job, whether it's asked for or not. And it is a contract with yourself. And I will add one phrase to the discussion of culture. You talked about behaviors and things. There's a saying that I kind of live by, that the culture of an organization is at least minimally defined by the worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate. And it's not always easy to be the person who pushes the culture from that perspective, but that is an important thing. You do define the behaviors of the people in your organization, and it does define your culture. And the last thing I will say is we've talked about purpose-driven leadership, and I think in order to be purpose-driven, you have to look at your position as a leader and how you do your job. And I consider myself to be a servant leader first. I'd never tell people that I am the dean of the Beacom School of Business. I tell them that I serve as the dean of the Beacom School of Business. And when faculty come in my office, when students come into my office, I say to them, how can I be of service today? What keeps me awake at night is not the big problems that I'm going to face. I have a team that will help me with that. What keeps me awake at night is how do I better serve the people in my building, in my college, in my school, that need me to be there for them, and what do they need from me, even if they don't know how to tell me. So be a servant leader first.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for your comments. That will wrap up this session today. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists. Enjoy your lunch.
How do we deliver best-in-class products today while keeping an eye on the horizon of Earth industries? By using everything at our disposal. Because at Viaflex, creating innovative solutions to complex customer challenges is why we exist. Viaflex, protecting Earth, promoting industry.
Home. It's more than an address. It's where you step out and snuggle in, where you share and dream and do. So you shouldn't have to go far from home when you need care. Whether it's for something common or complicated, we believe you deserve world-class healthcare, no matter where in the world you live, because every patient, everywhere, means the world to us. Here for all, here for good. Sanford Health.
Since 1956, Aerostar has been challenging the limits of technology.
Aerostar is an aerospace and defense contractor that works on high-altitude stratospheric balloons, radar systems, and protective wear. And our mission is to connect, protect, and save lives.
Today, Aerostar is a diversified technology company that continues to be a world leader in the design, development, and manufacturing of aerospace products. For decades, Aerostar has been at the forefront of high-altitude research and has a distinguished history of collaborating with university, scientific, and military partners.
Back in 1956, there was a lot of new technology being developed. There was a lot of testing for pre-NASA space race scientific research. Some of the first work that they were doing with the high-altitude balloons was before they had put people up in rockets.
For years, Aerostar has collaborated with NASA to use high-altitude research balloons in Antarctica. Felix Baumgartner was carried by an Aerostar balloon to the stratosphere, from which he completed his record-shattering space dive. Aerostar has spent decades refining high-altitude balloon technology, designing, engineering, and manufacturing the end product. It is a technology that can get balloons to the stratosphere reliably, inexpensively, and from anywhere in the world.
A satellite is reasonably expensive to put into space, and it doesn't just happen quickly. The balloon is orders of magnitude cheaper than that. What a balloon can do is it can navigate to a certain point that you can specify, and it can linger there for weeks or months on command. I can put it where I want it or in the vicinity of where I want it for a long period of time, reasonably inexpensively and with short notice.
The possibilities only grow as Aerostar develops smaller hardware and smarter technology.
We say not even the sky is the limit. If you take what we know about flying in the stratosphere that we didn't used to know, add into that better battery technology, better solar technology, better computing and navigation and smarts, I think there's a lot that can be done that hasn't been done before.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our event today. We're so glad that you are here.
Finding a place to belong is everything.
Ooh, look, I already started the
It's where you can make a difference.
Apparently, I already messed it up. Let's see. Well, my name is Bridget Bennett. I'm with Kettleland News, and I have the pleasure of interviewing a lot of these companies all the time.
Hi there.
I promise I did not even touch this thing. So here we go. We're on the right one now. These are a lot of wonderful companies in town, and I'm excited to introduce you to some of the people we have with us here today. Let me get organized and situated quick, and we will get started. We just are going to start with a quick introduction of everybody who's here with us today and the people that they are, the companies that they work for. This session is being recorded, and it's going to be available for all of our registered attendees today. And we are going to go through some really important questions and the different roles that they play in this community. We're going to start here with Jim Nelson. So Jim, why don't you tell us a little bit about your company, Aerostar?
All right, well, thank you, and appreciate you having us here. Aerostar International, so we started as Raven Industries back in 1956. We were a division of Raven, and we do high-altitude balloons and radar systems for aerospace and defense clients. We have about 250 team members across 4 states. About 170 or so are here in the Sioux Falls, greater Sioux Falls area, also offices in Texas and out in the Washington, D.C. area. I do a lot of defense work. We can take a balloon system up to 60 to 75,000 feet and keep it over a site for months at a time. We've been in Sioux Falls for a long time, are really passionate to still be here in town. We're really excited about our culture. Our mission is to connect, protect, and save lives, and we really bring that through in everything that we do. See what else we've got there. Number of different products, and just kind of an evolution of the company. Through the largest part of the company has been doing just pure manufacturing. Over the last 10 years has really been a transition to more engineering, development, operations, and full operations, so a full vertical integration. So it's kind of a transformation of the type of work that we're doing as well.
Good, thank you. Our next speaker here today is Kurt Laudenbach. He is the founder and the CEO of Grand Prairie Foods. Tell us about your company.
Yeah, thank you, Bridget, and pleased to be here today. And many of you out there would just know me as Valerie's husband. So it's a pleasure to be in front of you today to talk about an important topic with employment. Our company was started 20 years ago when Valerie and I had a dream of running our own business. And so the last 20 years have been the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into running that. And you can see I think there's a video that's going to be playing here in a moment about our company. But we do products for hotels, convenience stores, coffee shops, and the like all over the United States and Canada. In fact, locally, many of you would probably recognize our sandwiches that are served at all the Scooters restaurants that you see, or the coffee shops. So the coffee business and the sandwich expansion of that has been a great opportunity for us, and we've been able to capitalize on that. Currently have about 250 employees here in Sioux Falls mostly. We have a few remote workers, but most everybody works right here in Sioux Falls in 3 production plants and a distribution center that sends the product through distributors across the country.
And here's that video he's talking about, if we can get it right.
I think it's a silent video, so I could probably talk right through it.
Is that the one that was playing when we started? No, it didn't work.
Okay, that's fine.
That's fine. We went through it. All right. We will go to our next guest and speaker here today, Natalie Eisenberg, the CEO of Click Rain and Lemonly.
Great to see everyone today. I'm very humbled to be the leader of our awesome organization, which has changed a lot in the last 3 and 5 years. I'm actually the CEO of Click Rain Inc., which I oversee a team of about 60, and we have 2 agencies. Just a few years ago, Click Rain acquired Lemonly. So Click Rain provides website development, design and development to lots of organizations in the region, along with marketing partnerships. So you can hire us to be on contract and be your digital marketing arm. We work with lots of companies in the area, like SDSU, Avera Health, and Regency Hotel Management. So we support them in their digital work. At Lemonly, we offer more of a design-oriented business, and so we design sweet visuals for companies all around the country, and those visuals tend to be things like infographics and reports, videos, and we get to represent brands from around the country. Like right now we're working with Volvo on some design, and we're working with Activision Blizzard, the company that has a whole suite of video games you might recognize, like Candy Crush and Call of Duty, and we're working with some cool local companies like Midco. So really great opportunity to partner with a lot of companies across the region and the country. We also focus on being difference makers in everything that we do. We want to make a difference for every client that we work with, make a difference for every team member on our team, and also make a difference in the community.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Now we have Tom McNamara with Midco.
Yeah, so I'm the president of Midco and largely oversee all of the engineering, IT, cybersecurity, and operations. So I'm a techie. And go to the next slide, please. Enough about me. So this is a little historical video or historical slide. For some of you that don't know Midco's history, we started as the Wellworth Theater in Minneapolis in 1931, nearly a 100-year-old company, and we were the first broadcaster with a little group called Kello TV in the 50s. We added a lot of TV and radio stations in the 50s into the 60s, and then we put our first cable site in Huron, which a lot of people don't know. And we've then reached a point where coaxial delivery to homes was not good enough, and we moved to fiber. And so we've been doing fiber ever since the 90s, and we now have 15,000 miles of fiber throughout 5 states. So in 2021, we launched our Fiber Forward, which looks to get to 22,000 miles of fiber. And we started at 12,000 and we're at 15,000 already, so we're on pace. So that's a bit about Midco. Maybe the next slide just to see. There's a couple numbers in here. We'd give $4 million to the community each year. We've been averaging that in past years. We have about 500,000 customers in 1,400 communities, if I've got that number right from here. And then, as I said, you know, the company is a fiber network company with an amazing network across 5 states, and that is the backbone of the company at this point in our evolution. Who knows where we'll move from here? So I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Next, we have Scott Wickersham. He is the Chief Executive Officer at Viaflex.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So Viaflex, there's 2 companies up here that at one point were part of Raven Industries in Sioux Falls. So when CNH bought Raven Industries, they took 2 of the divisions and they spun them out into separate companies. Jim Nelson with Aerostar, and then Engineered Films has now rebranded, and about a year and a half ago we became an independent company that we've branded as Viaflex. So we've been around in Sioux Falls for a long time. Every single product we make starts here in Sioux Falls. We have an extrusion operation, manufacturing operation over by the airport. Overall, we employ over 400 to 450 people in our organization. We have operations in South Dakota, Colorado, Texas, Virginia, and I kind of make reference. I don't know if we want to flip to the next slide. Before we do that, I just want to say that we really kind of ground everything around our purpose of protecting Earth and promoting industry. The values and the vision that we have, but we always start with our purpose of protecting Earth and promoting industry. It's in the products we make, the markets we enter. That's a core to what we do as we go forward. This slide, it kind of represents 2 ways that we would describe ourselves. On the left is we would describe ourselves as a technology company. We have we do a lot of work in polymer sciences, chemistry. We have people that design really cool machines to make stuff, so mechanical and industrial manufacturing operations need to be lean, mean, and efficient. We've got people that write programs, we've got our IT, so we view that technology is a key to our success. And then on the right side, that's a picture of one of our blown film lines, and another way that we describe ourselves is that we're an industrial manufacturer, and we embrace that. We're proud of that. We have a lot of people that wear work boots and blue jeans to work. Both from our customer standpoint and from our employee standpoint. And we're proud of that, we embrace it, and we're very pleased to be part of this and pleased to be rooted right here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Thank you. Next up, we have Reese Kurtenbach. He is the Chief Executive Officer at Daktronics. Tell us a little bit about Daktronics.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you guys having us here today. Daktronics is founded in 1968 in Brookings, South Dakota, and that's still our headquarters today. We today have facilities of manufacturing in Sioux Falls, Redwood Falls, Brookings, as well as a small facility in Ireland and a larger facility in Shanghai, China. And we really ship globally from there. The picture shows what we do. We inform and entertain audiences for a variety of reasons: sports, advertising, both on-premise and third-party, and transportation are our major market segments today. We design, we manufacture, we support all of these products ourselves, and we're proud of the value statement we bring to the industry. As far as on the people side, South Dakota, globally about 3,000 employees. South Dakota has over half of those, maybe 1,700, of which the bulk are in Brookings, South Dakota. 500 or so are in Sioux Falls, in the Sioux Falls area. We do have a factory over by the airport. We have one part of that building does a lot of billboards and high school video displays, and the other part of that building supports all of our installed product through a repair and return center and a place that people ship their products to be repaired. In the Sioux Falls area, though, we have a whole plethora of people that maybe design on the engineering side, maybe in our sales and marketing, maybe in our accounting and other support groups. And we've seen through COVID a process that we had of our employees dispersing through the U.S. and through different areas really accelerated. And so today we have place-based work in factories where you report to the same building, but we have a lot of remote work too. So thank you.
Thank you. And our next presenter is Carla Santi. She is the CEO and founder of Blend Interactive. Tell us about your company.
You bet. Last but not least, right?
Yes.
As she mentioned, I'm the founder and CEO of Blend Interactive. We solve complex problems on the web. But long and short, we are a web design and development agency. So we really focus on complex, is what we call them, websites. So we've worked with most, if not all, of the companies up here, minus Natalie. We don't do the digital marketing part. So we're usually doing the technical back-end part of websites. So we don't overlap too much. But we've built a website for Raven that doesn't need the internet. Sorry, Midco. We support Midco's internal IT team with their website as well. So we do some regional work, but for the most part, we're a national and international company. So, to be fair, I have Midco at the office. It's very fast, and we're very happy. I tell Verizon that every time they call. So there you go. But no, we focus on healthcare systems, financial services, associations, higher ed. There's sites that have like thousands and thousands of pages of content and lots of different audiences. Healthcare systems and finance definitely needs a lot of compliance. So we're kind of doing some of the more technical and nerdy things on the web. But our team is made up of 25 people. So we're made up of project managers, developers, strategists. We have some operations like finance management, things like that. But that's kind of what it takes to run a firm of 25 is we have a lot of overhead at that size. You're kind of in the middle of growth pattern, but we never want to be big. So one of the things that we really have focused on is high quality, high end work. So we're taking on maybe 2, 3, 4 projects a year, and that's it. Our websites take often a year to build. So that's our sweet spot, is really doing these big projects for really great partners all over the world. I started the company in 2005, so I've been at it for almost 19 years. And obviously, our industry has changed dramatically. I used to make interactive CD-ROMs back in the day, believe it or not. You guys don't even know what that is because they used to put them in your computer. Never mind. But obviously, AI is a big thing. We are always in the forefront of seeing what's new, trying it out on our customers, and always learning. So it's fun to be, we're students just like a lot of you in the room. We're learning about these technologies as they come out, and it's really fun to be able to provide those services for companies like these.
Well, clearly this is a panel of really wonderful companies, some of the biggest employers in all of Keloland, as we would say at my station. So thank you all for being here today. Now we're gonna get to the meat and really get some of their insights on some really important topics in our community. One, a few of you have already talked about technology and how some of that is changing our workforce needs today. We're gonna ask all of you to answer this first one, but then we'll break up the questions to hear from just a few specific people to get through a few more topics. The first one is about artificial intelligence. I'm sure that's a topic we've already heard about today, and automation. And they're, of course, becoming increasingly more popular in workplaces, improving efficiencies for employees and your organization. How are they changing each of your individual workplaces? And I'll start.
Okay, get to go first again. All right, I would say there's a lot of talk about AI and how that's transforming things. And some of it has to come from not just looking at it as a technology, but how can you use it? So it's re-looking at how are we analyzing data and using data to drive decisions. So when we look at any of our data-driven decisions and you're building in that AI, it's getting the people and the skill set has to be paired with something else. So if you write software, then you can actually make it practical. We've run into areas where we can develop a great algorithm, but doesn't have use. So you can see where that transforms some of the work we're doing, but to make it practical is kind of I'd say one piece of the trend that's been missing as we start to bring on the new technology is how's it really gonna plug into your existing operations?
So for us, how many of you saw the movie Space Odyssey 2001? Yeah. When you talk about artificial intelligence, right? No, I don't think I fear that too much, but Google that sometime and you'll see what I mean. But in our business, we've been going through a transformation relative to technology, and the first one is that all of our packaging machines are essentially little computers that run motors. In the simplest form, that's what they are. So from a skill set standpoint, that requires people that not only understand the mechanical part of a machine, but also the technology or the software interface that may be running that machine. So it's a very highly specialized training that is required for that, and we've been going through a transition in our maintenance team towards people that have that understanding and training. The next step that we've gone through is the installation of a new enterprise resource system recently that requires all barcoding and scanning with guns. And so again, you have to have people that really understand the technology that's associated with that, because whatever comes out of that exercise has to make sense. And you need somebody that understands what comes out of it, because if it's wrong, then it screws everything up. So they have to have the kind of common sense and knowledge of how things work relative to scanning technology. Our next phase that we're going through is really a re-engineering of our production system. We've been embarking on a project that involves robotics and other automation that essentially seeks to cease any human involvement in repetitive motion. Assembling sandwiches, for example, will be robotic driven as opposed to someone standing on a production line and putting a bun on or a hamburger on a bun. We've been going through that exercise. We've narrowed it down to 2 or 3 different vendors that we are taking a close look at, but sometime in the next 12 to 18 months, we expect to be embarking on that journey. And that's a totally new requirement and a skill set to operate those machines as well, that we'll really be looking at changing over our entire workforce, really, in terms of being able to understand technology and solve problems and fix things on the fly. So that's what we're up to.
All right, so at ClickRain and at Lemonly in our agency settings, automation is something that we're very practiced and experienced in, something that we've been working on for years, figuring out how to connect one technology to the next, and hopefully take away task-type steps from someone who has immense talent in areas like strategy and creativity and project management. We don't necessarily want that brain power spending a lot of time doing task management and things that we can find technology to help with. So for example, one really common automation in our operation is the way that leads come in through our websites. We get a lot of inquiries through our own websites that people are interested in working with us. And so that doesn't go directly to a person that fields that. It actually has some automations set up to learn more about that prospect and then channel it in the right direction. Once it finally gets to a person, even the way that we gather information from new prospects is fairly automated. They're filling out a form. They're giving us a lot of the upfront information with more automated steps than actually having a meeting or a series of meetings right away. But we certainly get to that meeting eventually and provide that human touch. It's just really trying to spend our team's talent in the right ways.
Let me give you an answer. I got to get my phone out and do Chat GPT. No, I'm just kidding. No, really for us, it's a big deal. When I talk about the 15,000 miles of fiber, we have lots of technical facilities with lots of switches in them. And to configure all those switches is a massive amount of work. It's extremely precise. Wrong routings and things cause your network and your internet not to work. So it's really changing our business. I will say we were already going to be data-driven and had hired 30 analysts. We have a complete data engineering team. So fortunately, I see it more of what we're doing, but I don't know what you're studying here, but data engineers, analysts, we're hiring some automation engineers at times. So it's really gearing up. So that's what's changing in the work. You might think, well, wow, am I going to have what am I going to do with these? I think we're all in all of our roles going to have some form, they call it co-pilot at Microsoft, but assistance through an AI method, no matter what your job is. And I think it's going to be kind of weird at first because we think it's cheating to use that, but it's not. I'll tell you that all 30 of our developers, we've licensed a co-pilot for them. And we ask, why don't you use the co-pilot first and then correct and integrate afterwards instead of the other way around. But so there's some retraining needed, but I would say that definitely it's in the long run going to not replace workers. It's simply going to take the mundane, routine, repetitive work and replace it with more complex, more challenging, and more rewarding work. So I think it's a good thing. It's a bit scary now, but that's kind of how I see it impacting us.
Yeah, so a lot of my comments would be the same as what's already said. And one of the things that I've thought about is, automation and AI. AI is more of a new term, but we've been doing things in the form of automation and in the form of, increasing productivity for hundreds of years in civilization. I mean, a manufacturing company in the early 1900s was trying to find ways to do things more efficiently and be able to leverage their resources more efficiently. So that's not new. This is just the newest technology to deploy that. And I think that's something to keep in mind. I remember, when the computer revolution or the technology revolution in the 90s really got going, they said it's going to put the paper companies out of business. And there was more paper printed after computers came around than ever before with it. So I think the other thing, Natalie used the term human touch, and I think that fits perfectly with how we think about it is, with ChatGPT, Stephen Timms was part of a panel this morning, and he exposed this within our organization, is we embrace it. We brought it to the team and said, here's what this is, it was probably 8 months ago, so it's pretty fresh yet. Here's what this is. Here's some ways that you could use it. And it did feel a little bit like cheating. And if you just cut and paste an answer and you put it in there and you don't read through it and make it yours, there's a very good possibility it doesn't represent you, so you need that human touch with it. In automation, I look at it this way with all of this, is we're looking to be more productive. And one thing that hits home right now is many of us are preparing, are going through strategic planning and preparing to go through budget season and preparation for next year. And the most fun part about that is you get to talk about all the stuff you're going to do and all the initiatives that you're going to take. At least that's the most fun for me. So you work through all of that. Now the most discouraging part goes hand in hand with that. This is what you're choosing not to do. And that list is deep for us. There are so many things that we all want to do, and we can't do it all. So if we can make our team more productive and save time with the engineers and save time in the production floor and save material from going scrap and all of that with various levels of automation, we get to do more. It's not have less people and replace people. We get to do more as a company, and that's the exciting part for me. I don't think this is going to change. I think there's going to be a human touch for a long time, and I think that we're going to continue to improve for the next few hundred years.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what's been said. ChatGPT is large language models have gotten a lot of attention and a lot of excitement, and they're cool. I would agree with the statements. But we've been, all of us have been doing automation in our factories, in our business functions, things like call centers and service work where you could get guidance on how to fix things and how to repair things. And we're going to see that go through in the future. Maybe a big change is that the organizations of the future, there's going to need to be a digital fabric that really pulls through all the departments and all the areas and ties those together. So I would say that the workforce of the future, if you are considering data or a data-focused area, those are going to be in high demand for quite some time as many organizations work to leverage these technologies even further into taking the repetitive, maybe the tedious tasks off people's plates so they can really focus on strategic planning and some of these really cool things that are out there.
All right, I'll try to say something a little bit different than everybody else. Some practical ways that we're seeing people use AI is, our clients are trying to do less or more with less, I should say. Budgets are tight. People have lost people in their teams. Their marketing team is now one person instead of 5. And some of the software and systems that we implement for web have AI tools now built in. We build websites on a platform called Optimizely, Midco's on that. They now have their own AI person built right in. Her name is Opal. And so if you are a marketer, you go in and you're going to push out an email campaign that's tied to your website, and you ask Opal to bring up last quarter's creative assets and template it out for you, and anything like that can be done for you is saving people's time, like we've talked about a lot. Another way that we use it internally at Blend is writing. So we've been doing this for a while, even before we started using ChatGPT, but every company or even your own personal brand, you have a voice and you can train AI to understand what you sound like. So as a business, we actually use it as a brand guide. So we'll put in our social media or marketing text, whatever it is, and ensure that we're in line with our brand guide. Like it's actually Blend's voice, and we're using the right apostrophes and all the things. So there's lots of practical uses that, yes, save time, but also make things more consistent and perfect in some ways. So it's exciting. And I mentioned this morning that AI will never be dumber than it is today. Like it's the worst it is today. It's smarter than it was yesterday. Tomorrow's going to be amazing. And if we think about how the iPhone changed what we can do and how we use our phones, like it's going to be that in 10 years. So don't look back.
Really interesting. Thank you, guys. Some of you have already mentioned this, but this next question is specifically for Kurt, Jim, Reese, and Scott. We want to talk about how all of these advances in automation, specifically in manufacturing, how is that going to impact your workforce? So talking about your workforce vision for the next 3 to 5 years, how do you see that being impacted? And let's start down the other line. Reese, if you want to go first, you can start.
Well, thank you. Hopefully I don't take all the comments. Certainly it's affecting things on a manufacturing floor. Like we said, automation is getting easier and faster. One of the examples is this collaborative robots. It used to be robots were kind of off on their own and somewhat dangerous. They move fast, they moved heavy things. Now you work side by side with a robot and they move at a slower speed, more of a human speed. They can sense if there's an obstruction. They're safe around humans, and that's going to continue on. The automation of the future, today we train a lot of folks from straight out of high school, a lot of not much formal education to be highly productive production employees, and they learn these machines. That piece is going to get easier because all of the automation that we have is going to get smarter. It's going to get easier to interact with, more natural, more human language in how you interact with those. And so even in the future, it's going to get better. And it's going to do in our manufacturing floors what we've talked about in our office environment, take the tedious, repetitive tasks off of these people's plates so they can do things that are more thought-enabled, more skill-based, more complex in nature, and we believe will be more satisfying, and in the end, they'll like better.
Yeah, so some of this is pretty much aligned with what I'd said earlier, but one of the things that I've thought of in thinking about this question was, it was in 2018, so Elon Musk and Tesla, right? He had this vision of having, kind of the proverbial, what they used to refer to as the lights out manufacturing. Shut the lights off and the plant keeps going, and you go home and you check on your computer to see how it's running. I mean, he literally had that vision, and Elon Musk is, as good as anybody about making a vision become real. In 2018, he'd said that he made a mistake. And to put quotes around it, he said, "Humans are underrated." I was glad to hear that as a human, but it was his realization that this path that he was trying to go down is really, really, really hard. But there are steps that, again, I think we're all taking towards that. Will we ever get there? Forever is a long time, but not during my lifetime. I don't think that we'll be there to where we don't have a significant human touch. Now, what does that look like? That's something that I think everybody should be thinking about, is like, yes, we need more people that understand robotics, and more people that understand code writing, and more people that understand, how we can design product that can actually be manufactured with autonomous equipment. All of that all flows together with it. And so there is an element of STEM that's there, but even at the production level is like, we're gonna need people that are gonna do different things, but they're gonna have to be involved with our production operations on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so well said, Scott. And just to kind of add to that, I think about a couple of things that affect the people in this room, and especially you young people, as you think about career path. And this is an exciting career path for a young person because this is technology. And one of my favorite programs in the city is the mechatronics program at Southeast Tech, because those are people that figure out how to help computers talk to machines and talk to motors and make them work right. And if they don't work right, they know how to fix them. So that's going to be a huge opportunity for young people today as we continue in the manufacturing world to evolve to more automation. The other thing that's going to be really important is that we have to have people that are critical thinkers and problem solvers, because those cells don't always work right. The robots run into each other, and stuff just doesn't flow the way it should, and so you have to have people that are able to step back, assess, solve the problem, identify what the issues are, and help with their team come up with solutions so we're getting that line started back up and running it effectively again. So those are two big opportunities. Those people that have technology built into their shade tree mechanic capabilities, but also those that are just critical thinkers, and that's where a good education comes in. To me, that was the most important part of my education. It's not exactly what I learned in class, but it kind of helped me think about problem solving and how important it is to expand your horizon and view the world differently.
Now we get the opportunity to say what they said. Great points by all. Yeah, exactly. The thing I'd add there is kind of where Kurt was going on the diversity of skills. And the more that we get into automation, there's less jobs where you're doing the same thing over and over again. So as you get to more automation, it's the more valuable people are those who can do multiple things. If you're really good at mechanical, can also write software. We like to make sure that, the people that are really valuable can do multiple. They can go and write some software for a launch that we're doing, then actually support the launch, go out, retrieve a balloon, can help with debugging of a camera on a stratospheric flight. Those are the people that are most valuable. So if there's one piece of advice out of there is to look outside your direct track and learn something different, because that diversity makes us all better.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to another topic that's been huge since the pandemic, and that's remote and hybrid workspaces. I know it affects everybody here, but we're going to just pick a couple people to talk about this one. Tom, Midco was one of the first organizations to really embrace remote work during the pandemic, and you continue to offer a lot of flexibility for your workplace. How is that impacting Midco?
Yeah, that's true. We, 1 week after the pandemic hit, we had everybody at our operational headquarters, which is like 700 people of the 1,900, leave the building. Please leave the building. And they all went home. We had a pretty large customer care call center. And but we have an essential business. It's important that we kept it going. I will say that all our field service that are in the vans that you see rolling around towns, they kept doing what they always did, other than in some cases we would hang your set-top box on your doorknob instead of installing it during the worst of it. But in the end, so what really changed, I would say now, is that people went home for quite a while. They got kind of used to being at home, and they're not sure that they really want to be in an office anymore. So their expectations, and it empowered people to decide where I want to work, and it knocked down the geographic lines of people working from other states and all those kinds of things. So that's been dramatic. I will say, though, after 2-3 years, people began to crave interaction with each other. The human connection is stronger than the desire to sit in your office and in your sweatpants, your SpongeBob sweatpants or pajamas. So I have those. I shouldn't have let that out. That was private. But yeah, so that human connection, so people are craving that. So where are we at now, 3 years into this, is we will be in a flexible hybrid environment, I would call it. We will have all people that interact on a regular basis, like 3 days a week in one of our office areas, and just being with other people. And I think it's critical that we don't lose that as a society, first of all, but also I think innovation comes from diverse people getting together and brainstorming and going through the process, and also work's a whole lot funner when you're with people that you enjoy and you're not alone. So we're trying to find that balance. Flexibility is a good way to put it. We're not forcing anyone to ever come in 5 days a week. It's more like a 3-day thing. We let them kind of pick the days. I will say certain roles like customer care, we have found it is probably better just that they are able to work from home, because it's a long drive, it's noisy in a big call center, they're in a private office. So in some ways that's worked out really well, and it's allowed us to recruit across a lot of areas. So that's where we're at today.
Well, that's the next point, talking about recruitment and retention. And this is for Carla and Natalie to talk about how is having a flexible workspace and bringing in more remote workers and things, how is that impacting your ability to attract talent and then retain them?
Well, for us, we had been doing some remote work even prior to the pandemic, so it wasn't brand new, but it certainly accelerated our learning in the space. And so we had a comfort level with remote work, and we have for a while, and it decided, in the last few years that this was something that we really wanted to make a part of our culture, that flexibility would become a part of our culture. And so it's definitely something that we market when we're recruiting talent, and it's absolutely been a draw for people to come to our company from other companies where it's maybe not quite there yet. So certainly an attractor, and something that we're continuing to evolve. I thought it was really enlightening. I was with a class at South Dakota State about a year ago, and just talking about marketing and things, and asked the question, if the class had a choice, would you prefer to be full remote, in a hybrid setting where you're a little of each, or full in office? And the majority of that group of college kids right now is saying hybrid. They're seeing the benefit of that flexibility and that ability to have their personal life a little more supported maybe, and then also knowing that they don't want to be remote all the time, and maybe some learnings through their high school experience during COVID and things like that, college experience during COVID. So we definitely try and strike that balance too in our office. Some people ask me, how can you be promoting such a flexible work environment and yet investing in a new office space? So we just, over the past year or so, my partners and I purchased a building downtown and renovated an old factory to be our new office. And so, of course, we want people to be there and are always looking for ways to both support that flexibility and also encourage that in-person collaboration.
Just hanging out down here by myself. One of the greatest privileges and benefits of being a CEO and owning a company or leading a company is being able to create a place where you want to work and shaping a workplace that makes you happy. I think we, being a tech company, we quickly moved remote 100%, did great, but I realized as a leader, I didn't want to run a remote company, a 100% remote company. We got through it, it was fine, but I missed having the option to go. And I think that's really the key, and maybe Natalie's seeing that too with a brand new office space, but just to be able to say you have somewhere to go is actually the biggest benefit sometimes. I have colleagues that work from home and they have nowhere to go, and they sometimes don't leave their house for days. Because why do you leave the house? Go out to eat, spend money. You know, I think for some of us, leaving the house is a way to separate work from home. And so we'll be flexible forever because of our industry, but it's because of the culture that I wanted, not only for myself, but for our team. And when it comes to recruitment, we have to be competitive. Like I mentioned this morning, many of our employees can work for Google or a really large-scale company from the comfort of their homes and live here in Sioux Falls. And so that's what we're competing with. So we have to have some sort of recruitment and retention plan to keep people happy and make them want to come work at a place in Sioux Falls.
Great. Carla, we'll let you start this next one. This is for everybody. We've been talking a lot about the pandemic and the impact it's had on all of our businesses. Something called the Great Resignation. That's where the pandemic really helped people reevaluate what they want out of their life. A lot of career changes happened then. How has this changed leadership for your companies? How has this changed how you manage your companies? Carla, you can start.
Sure. Yeah, I think my company was certainly affected by a fair bit of turnover during that time. I think we all were in different ways. Looking back, you know, it sometimes really is painful going through those periods, but you can look back, I can look back now, and I'm actually grateful. I think sometimes change is good, right? New people, new ideas, new energy is a positive thing. When it comes to leadership, I think, even coming back to the AI topic again, but many of us get promoted into leadership because we're experienced or we're experts in doing a thing. And so you kind of work your way up the corporate ladder because you've put the time in and you have this knowledge base that someone else doesn't. Now with so many different ways to learn, AI at our fingertips, that level sets a little bit, and I feel it's the soft skills that you have as a leader. Maybe it's your visionary qualities, maybe it's your empathy, things that a computer can't spit out that's actually going to make our best and most talented managers and leaders. So for you students, you probably heard this morning, like, take a speech class, like learn how to communicate, like greet people when you know, just basic skills of how to survive as humans is sometimes going by the wayside. So in leadership, I think when we're not depending on our experience and talent, it has to fall on being a positive, encouraging leader that has empathy.
Am I next or?
Yep.
Yeah, how do you explain all the changes that goes through a global pandemic as a company that depends on people going out and attending events or traveling? Our business shrank dramatically in the course of a couple of months. As an organization, we had to shrink dramatically. And then it sprang back very fast, and we grew back with the business that we had. The management team, we had still have and had then a great management team, but to be able to be agile and read what's going on and then adapt to it was something of volatility we had never seen before. But I think it makes us stronger as we're here on the other side. So where we're at today is we can we can plan for the future. We see a bright, healthy future out there that we can start to plan for. But the complexity of the world in the future to take advantage of these technologies that we've all talked about today is going to make problem solving and being able to take something big and nebulous and hard to explain and make it visible and tangible and graspable by many. And so I think as we move forward into the future, that will be the leadership challenge. Not underestimating all the other things, but that's maybe something new and different as we look into the future.
Yeah, I'd say that, the pandemic was something that you could say, who's going to predict something like the pandemic and then how you have to adjust to something like that. And again, there are companies, though, that are dealing with things that are at like the pandemic level. There was a company that I'm aware of in Iowa that their whole manufacturing facility was just decimated by a tornado. Okay, so that's their whole company, and that is worse than the pandemic that we had to deal with. And there are, look in the news or read the business highlights, and you'll see companies that are going through things that were worse than the pandemic at an individual level. I'm going to say the same thing, the leadership principles that we all try to bring to our operation, they're just as important through the pandemic. You just have to fluctuate, tactically, and you maybe have to think over a different time frame. I would say, especially for the newer employees, the younger employees, is Kurt and I were talking about this earlier today, is just that interaction that you get by being in the office and being around people that have been around the block a few times is invaluable. I've got a son that's he's a junior in electrical engineering, and he's got a co-op or an intern opportunity next summer, and that opportunity includes him having to be in the office 3 days a week, but can work from his apartment 2 days a week. And while he was kind of excited about that, I have a lot of influence over him because I still write the checks for school. And I told him he better be taking full advantage of that opportunity to learn from that summer to where he's going to be working with people that have been around the block many, many times. And don't miss that. And I would say that's one of the things that I think about as a leader, the opportunity to spend time and mentor with people that are in the office. It happens more. It literally happens around the water cooler. And that would be my encouragement to the younger, but also as leaders, that's something I think we have a responsibility for.
Yeah, and I would say in our company, we didn't have the Great Resignation, so I'm thankful for that. And I would attribute that to, I believe our company operates as a family. I think all the managers and leaders actually check in on the people that work for them. They care about them. They give them challenges that make them want to strive to accomplish something. Then we celebrate those. And so I think that's what it takes. Is I once had someone tell me, you're a great manager. And I said, why? And they said, well, you stop in to my cube every day and ask me how I'm doing. That's a pretty minimum request, is to notice I'm here and work with me and help me be better. And so often our people say, give me feedback, and we're really open, and I never get anyone to do something for me because they're scared of me. It's always because they want to make me happy, and vice versa. And so I would say it's relationships, and so managers have to really figure that out. It's a time where we're not treating each other the best that we can, and we, as managers and leaders, really need to connect with our people, and it's a lot funner when you do that. So that's my message to you, and if you're someone that's a little, introverted and stuff, try to come out a little bit of your shell and put the devices down for a while and just get to know the people you work around and your leader and engage them and make sure they're engaging you. And I think people don't leave when they're happy, they're laughing, and they're having fun. So.
All right, my reflections from the pandemic, a couple of highlights I'll share are that I think it was level setting for us as, again, human beings. The leaders and the workers were all in this together, and we're all in our sweatpants for a little while there. And it was actually really insightful to even see in some cases for the first time, like into people's homes and to learn a little more about their personal lives. And so that was, I think, a good thing, and maybe some personal human vulnerability came through there that wasn't there before. Another thing that we shifted a little bit related to the pandemic is that we became more of an input-driven organization. We relied a lot more on, we really wanted to gauge team morale as we came out of the pandemic, and so relied a lot more on team surveying and spending time with team members and trying to quantify how everybody was doing. And so that has been a new norm for us. We do trimester team input surveys where we're getting ideas from the team and finding out what the thematic issues are amongst the team and things like that. So those are my couple learnings.
Excuse me. So for us, in March of 2020, virtually every hotel in the country closed down, and at that time our business was roughly 80% hotel oriented, and so it was pretty difficult for our business. So we shut down the office, sent everybody home, said work from home, and it wasn't within 2 or 3 weeks, and people were starting to say, "Can we come back? Can we come back?" And so we basically opened the office back up a month later, and virtually everyone came back, even though we gave them the option. But what it created was one of those things in a lot of businesses, when you've been through a war together, it creates a tighter team. And so we basically took an all-hands-on-deck attitude, and we had one of our facilities that was totally closed down for about 12 months that it took before that business started to recover. And so we were all about, getting the world of problem solving and critical thinking that I referenced earlier. What do we do about this? How are we going to pivot? How are we going to change our business so that we can survive and come out of this on the other side a stronger company? And that's what we did. When we went into the pandemic, as I said, our business was roughly 80%, depending on the hospitality industry, and today it's 30% maybe. And so we just diversified our business, and that became an exercise of the entire leadership team is what can we do to make sure that this doesn't happen to us again. And so we pivoted, diversified the business. It created new leaders in the company because we had more businesses to manage, and it just created more opportunity for everyone. The second comment I'd make about this in terms of the Great Resignation, and we don't have much problem with that either, Tom, and that is because we empower people to run their departments. We don't hold hands. We don't give people roadmaps on how to do their business. We just say, we need these kind of results. Let's, you work with your team and figure out how to get it done. And, we'll do a weekly check-in with our management team to check on metrics and how we're progressing against our objectives. But we let leaders be leaders. We don't let them tell them they have to manage. We ask them to lead. And that's what's helped our company create a culture that people like to work there because they get to be independent in their thinking.
I'd say just to underscore something that's always been a tenet, but the culture and the mission is much more important than strategy and technology. And that really happened as the Great Resignation of people really took a step back and said, well, what do I want to do in my life? How do I want to make a difference in the world? And that it was also kind of doubly important for us as we separated from Raven as a separate company of what is our identity. And that's where we connected back to, why do I want to work here? And that is, I connect with the mission. We want to connect, protect, and save lives. I want to make a difference in the world and be part of a company that cares about me and is a place that I can grow. And so those are the culture that is the most important part as you look at leadership going forward. Is we do cool stuff. We're doing aerospace and technology in Sioux Falls is awesome. But it's better to be part of the Aerostar culture where you're giving back and your teammates are there to help you out. So that culture is probably the most important thing to me.
Great, thank you all. And we only have a couple minutes left, so we won't have time for everyone to answer this, but this is such an important question. We've talked a lot about your own companies and growing the companies, but how about being good community partners in our community as businesses? So we're gonna just pick a couple people to talk about this because we've only got a few minutes. Carla, Kurt, Natalie, and Tom, give us an answer about why is community engagement so important for your business? Carla, you can go first.
Sure. Well, I feel mentoring has been beneficial for so many people that I've met with, but in turn, I've learned equally as much from them. When I founded this business almost 19 years ago, I didn't have anybody to look to, and it was very lonely. I think it was just a different culture back then, and I don't think mentoring was even something that we talked about like we do today. But as business leaders, I think, especially here in Sioux Falls, these are some of the most approachable, nice, kind leaders in our community. And I think we all are very giving of our time and want to give back. We've all been thankful that we've been successful. And I feel we owe it to Sioux Falls and the community for being supportive of our business and our team. So we encourage mentoring at Blend. We have a program called BEEP, Blend's Education Exchange Program. I had to think about that because we have BLIP, which is Blend's little internship program. But they're both ways that we take our time and give back to the community at no cost. So if you're interested in learning about web development, you can have a mentor at Blend. So that is one way that we give back as a company. And then, of course, I serve on a lot of boards and want to give back in that way by volunteering.
I would say for us, it was instilled way back in 1931 when those first owners, they were always big in like contributing to education, healthcare, United Way organizations, and that just carried on and on. But in the last, couple decades, it became our ethos to be a force for good. So that's our main value is to do that. So when I go around to all of our techs and our communities, I just did the whole Ponderosa, we call it. And there's all these teams of technical people that have become a part of their community. They're very much like the community they're in. And they do a lot of volunteering. And then we always try to, as a corporation, give, $4 million a year or whatever we can and spread it across all of our communities and customers. And so I guess I would just finish this by saying, a lot of people aren't too good to each other right now, and I think it's really good to just decide that you're not going to be that way. You're going to be a force for good, and we're going to be good to each other. And it's attracted all the people that have come to get jobs at Midco have a similar philosophy that they really kind of want to do good stuff for their community and for each other, and it just kind of catches. So, powerful thing.
Well, I have a brother that lives in Dallas, Texas, and a brother that lives in Minneapolis, and they're always giving me crap, and they're saying, "Don't you ever work?" Because I'm always telling them about the community things that I'm involved in, and I think that what I've observed is that not a lot of other communities are like Sioux Falls, where the business population and the business leaders really step forward to make things happen and make good things happen, because they're not doing that in Minneapolis or Dallas, at least my brothers aren't. When I first became more community involved, I really did it because I thought it was a networking play where I would meet people, and it was, but it was more than that. I would meet not only people who I would rub shoulders with, but my future attorney, my future accountant, clients, colleagues. There truly is a reason to get involved in the community, and there are so many needs, even in Sioux Falls where we do so much, there are so many needs that there's always something that you can find that you can be passionate about. If you're passionate about solving something in our community or helping with something in our community, there's probably an avenue you can take, and if there's not, you can start one. So that's what I think.
Thank you. So as I think about this, I've had the opportunity to not only live in various parts of the country, but like many people up here, we have touch points with customers and prospects and other business associates all over the United States. And when they come to town, big Fortune 500 companies that are coming to town to work with us on a product line or a new program, and they're like, wow, Sioux Falls, this is a happening place. And the thing I like to brag about mostly about Sioux Falls, which most of you are probably aware of, and that's this phenomenon we call Forward Sioux Falls. I mean, not very many communities can say they bring their two biggest competitors in the entire community and make them co-chairs of a committee that raises almost $18 million to reinvest in the community. And I think that just says it all right there.
Well, first off, thank you all for all of the support that you do in our community. We love having you as a part of Sioux Falls and building up this community and this network. But most importantly, thank you for sharing your time and your talents today. You all are very busy. Let's give them a round of applause today. And it is 2:09. We finished right on time. Good job, guys.
That's why we're the bosses.
Oh, a rough start.
Don't do
but we
that
made it
anymore.
work
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, it's so good to see you.
Thank you.
Yes.
How do we deliver best-in-class products today while keeping an eye on the horizon of Earth Industries? By using everything at our disposal. Because at Viaflex, creating innovative solutions to complex customer challenges is why we exist. Viaflex, protecting Earth, promoting industry.
Home. It's more than an address. It's where you step out and snuggle in, where you share and dream and do. So you shouldn't have to go far from home when you need care, whether it's for something common or complicated. We believe you deserve world-class healthcare, no matter where in the world you live, because every patient, everywhere, means the world to us. Here for all, here for good. Sanford Health.
Since 1956, Aerostar has been challenging the limits of technology.
Aerostar is an aerospace and defense contractor that works on high-altitude stratospheric balloons, radar systems, and protective wear. And our mission is to connect, protect, and save lives.
Today, Aerostar is a diversified technology company that continues to be a world leader in the design, development, and manufacturing of aerospace products. For decades, Aerostar has been at the forefront of high-altitude research and has a distinguished history of collaborating with university, scientific, and military partners.
Back in 1956, there was a lot of new technology being developed. There was a lot of testing for pre-NASA space race scientific research. Some of the first work that they were doing with the high-altitude balloons was before they had put people up in rockets.
For years, Aerostar has collaborated with NASA to use high-altitude research balloons in Antarctica. Felix Baumgartner was carried by an Aerostar balloon to the stratosphere, from which he completed his record-shattering space dive. Aerostar has spent decades refining high-altitude balloon technology, designing, engineering, and manufacturing the end product. It is a technology that can get balloons to the stratosphere reliably, inexpensively, and from anywhere in the world.
A satellite is reasonably expensive to put into space, and it doesn't just happen quickly. The balloon is orders of magnitude cheaper than that. What a balloon can do is it can navigate to a certain point that you can specify, and it can linger there for weeks or months on command. I can put it where I want it or in the vicinity of where I want it for a long period of time, reasonably inexpensively and with short notice.
The possibilities only grow as Aerostar develops smaller hardware and smarter technology.
We say not even the sky is the limit. If you take what we know about flying in the stratosphere that we didn't used to know, add into that better battery technology, better solar technology, better computing and navigation smarts, I think there's a lot that can be done that hasn't been done before.
Finding a place to belong is everything. It's where you can make a difference, where you're heard, where you have a team that supports you, and the benefits you deserve. At Avera, you can find that place. You belong at Avera. Apply today. Avera.org/careers.
Oh, hi there. We are Daktronics. we create some of the most sophisticated and iconic scoring and audiovisual systems on the planet that ensure your projects deliver impact. We're a passionate group of designers, fabricators, project managers, sales, service, digital artists, tech gurus, and engineers. We design, code, test, fabricate, bend, punch, insert, paint, pack, ship, install, and service dynamic audiovisual systems. Oh, and we also create the incredible content that goes on them. We do everything. But most importantly, we listen to our customers and together find successful solutions for their brand and messages to deliver impact. From the small projects to the large, that's what we do. We innovate, we design, and we light it up. We are Daktronics.
At Premier, it's about doing what's right for our customers, employees, and communities, giving our time and resources to support what matters most: academics and athletics, arts and entertainment, families and economic development. When you have the right people, financial solutions, and a spirit of service, you build one of the nation's strongest financial organizations. First Premier Bank and Premier Bank Card. Investing in you. Member FDIC.
You've put in some amazing work, and everything is going to come out fantastic. So excited for everything.
All right, Lindsay, it's great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll see you Saturday.
Have a good
Okay, bye. All right, Maya, what should we do next?
I know.